Hello and welcome to an episode that deals with corporate social responsibility. I'm Swati Singh, a guest lecturer at Delhi University and other colleges. I have an experience of over a decade with various media organizations and have been teaching for 7 years. In this episode, we will try and cover the following. Understand the meaning of corporate social responsibility. Comprehend the role of public relations with respect to corporate social responsibility. Instilling customer confidence. The importance of transparency and disclosure. Making corporate social responsibility relevant to business. Look at the process of strategizing a good public relations approach for corporate social responsibility. Examine case studies of corporate social responsibility in India. What is corporate social responsibility? Corporate social responsibility is quintessentially embracing responsibility for the company's actions and encouraging a positive impact through its activities on the environment, consumers, employees, communities, and various stakeholders. Public relations seek to develop and nurture relationships with the stakeholders, and corporate social responsibility establishes the grounds whereupon public relations professionals can enhance the company's image and relationship. The role of public relations is becoming increasingly important in the implementation of corporate social responsibility.
When we talk about corporate social responsibilities, it is essentially the social responsibility of a private organization in the community and in the area or in the country in which it is set up. So basically, apart from your corporates, there's a responsibility of the public sector as well to put in some money in the society as well. So there are different arenas and areas in which a corporate essentially puts in their money for their CSR activities, which could be your education, your empowerment, your healthcare, your sanitation, any community services, etc. When we talk about empowerment, it could mean, like, for example, like DLF, when it was setting up in Haryana, when they were putting up their DLF plots and they're making the buildings, etc. At that time, they thought that, we need to do something for our surrounding areas, for it is a social responsibility to do something in the area in which we are doing the development. So what they really figured out, their marketing team or their research team figured out, was the fact that, children in those areas and the women in those areas, they didn't have the chance to educate themselves, because the very reason that there were no schools, there was nothing. So what they started up doing was they basically set up an informal school in which they had their volunteers who were teaching these students and these women and these elderly people of the community of the village about how to keep themselves clean, about the hygiene, about education as such, their basics of reading and writing. That school was essentially set up about, I think, some 5-6 years back with some 10 students, and at present, if we look at that informal setup of the school, it has over 200 students. This was DLF's way of thinking, of putting in their corporate social responsibility of being a firm which was utilizing the land, barren lands, or whatever lands that they had. They thought that there was a responsibility that they owe to the society in which they are doing the particular development.
Defining corporate social responsibility. The corporate sector has always been presumed to be a money-guzzling, environmentally hazardous identity, responsible for the depletion of resources that has none or very low regard for fellow humans and the less privileged. This image crisis amongst the conglomerates led to a common understanding of giving back to the society. The companies started taking responsibility for their actions and started taking initiatives to make a difference. The most common method adopted are that of philanthropy, building charitable institutions, giving donations, distribution of clothes, food items, planting of trees, and so on. Other methods of confidence building include developing skill sets of the locals by providing them vocational training program for a more sustained impact. Role of public relations. The business of a business is to do business is a very common adage used in the corporate culture. Businesses are generally expected to earn profits or gains in everything they do. The business and the society in general are subscribed to the view that it is the function of the government alone to look after the welfare of the people. Corporate citizens cultivate a broad view of their own self-interest while instinctively searching for ways to align self-interest with larger good. That is, they hunt for a reconciliation of their company's profit making with the welfare of the society. In today's competitive economy, companies and products, brands seek differentiation at a time when differentiation is harder and harder to achieve. The Great Recession proved that the corporate responsibility is more important than ever. The consumer today have become aware and conscious and prefer using products and brands which do not harm the environment or are produced by socially responsible corporations. Therein, it becomes an absolute necessity for the corporate to make sure that their stakeholders are fully informed and aware of the corporate's social and responsible activities. The public relations in any context can contribute substantially towards attainment of corporate goals by practical reorientation of corporate social responsibility. Some such functions are to ensure the contribution of business to society as good citizens. Public relations must have the appropriate status and recognition within the organization to decide about the forms and shape of such contributions. To cope and balance out the pressures mounted increasingly by pressure groups in order to harmonize the company's economic goals with the nation's aspirations. The various techniques adopted for the same are by instilling customer confidence. Employees, shareholders, governments, regulators, and customers all need to be reassured that companies have sound functional corporate governance mechanisms in place. Organizations have a robust and enforced code of ethics that work in practice. The business contributes to the greater well-being and prosperity of society, as well as enhancing shareholder value. Companies which thrive over the longer term will be those that take a long, hard look at the way they conduct their business and adjust their practice and communication of that practice to the new reality. Corporate social responsibility has come to rely on a more complex set of factors than corporate governance alone, and now also depends upon environmental impact, sustainable development, supply chain management, contribution to local communities, and ethical sales and marketing, not to mention human rights records of countries where business chose to operate, and so on. The importance of transparency and disclosure. One of the golden rules in corporate social responsibility communication is setting the level of transparency and disclosure. As an overall rule of thumb, corporates should be open about problems as well as progress. All the facts that are communicated should be based on reality rather than what the stakeholders would like to hear or what is only about good press. Consistency in the level of transparency and follow-up information should be maintained. Making corporate social responsibility relevant to your business. The corporate social responsibility activities should be projected and shown in a manner which is relevant to the business by the Public Relations Department. For example, it makes sense that a telecom company takes relevant steps in data protection of the consumers. Through this manner, the company forges a deeper bond with its consumer and they are focusing on the public welfare. It will be accepted and applauded much more as the audience will be concentrated and appreciative of your work in their areas of interest. Having established that, corporates shouldn't shy away from doing what they feel they ought to tackle in the society. Through concentrated corporate responsibility, communications companies can establish an industry leadership position, launch a brand leapfrog competitors, penetrate a new market, profile a new product, engender customer loyalty, generate employee commitment, ultimately transform a company's reputation. The process of strategizing a good public relations approach for corporate social responsibility. Identify relevant stakeholders or target audience for corporate social responsibility. The first step should be to identify the relevant stakeholders. The typical stakeholders are likely to include employees, shareholders, investors, NGOs, competitors, media, regulators, job candidates, suppliers, local communities, where the business has a physical presence. The public relations officer may also need to include other groups or individuals, depending on whether the corporate social responsibility is about a citizenship initiative or an environmental measure. Mapping stakeholders according to their importance or relevance. This exercise is not only essential to the success of corporate social responsibility strategy, it is also a very useful business tool in general. Some stakeholders will be key contact points. Others will only be relevant to some areas of business. The mapping exercise will help outlining contact strategy according to the messages wished to be sent, the frequency of contact, and the degree of influence each person or group is likely to have. The communications strategy should always be clear and easy to understand for everyone involved. For example, strategy for communicating with suppliers could be help suppliers reduce waste by 20%. The communications plan will then set out the details of how, when, and what the public relations officer will communicate the desired message to the selected target audience. Keeping the messages consistent, no one can communicate on all fronts at the same time. The magic word here is consistency. It is essential to align the communications and keep track of actions. A good communications plan presents scenarios for every important target group and anticipates the questions that each group is likely to ask. In each scenario, the public relations officer should think of the target group, the communications objective, the long-term communication, timeline, channels, tools, tactics, and measurements. At the same time, to achieve success, none of the given scenario should contradict another. Involve the stakeholders. It is crucial to keep explaining, communicating, and engaging with the stakeholders. The golden rule are communicating regularly with stakeholders, keeping in touch particularly with key people whose opinion could influence other groups of stakeholders. Such influencers are also known as opinion leaders. Involving stakeholders and asking them for advice, particularly in difficult areas where the company has not achieved its corporate objectives. allowing stakeholders to express their hopes and fears for the company's behavior and preparing to change company strategy if necessary. Talking about positive work done by the organization. By being upfront about admitting mistakes and asking for help, in turn, carves a path in putting out positive stories about the initiatives. The media may not pick on positive stories very often, but they are valuable for building pride and trust among the employees, for establishing reputation and trust for prospective clients and potential employees. Such positive aspects should be highlighted in the media, either by press releases, arranging interviews of the top management with media, or by holding seminars on the various aspects of corporate social responsibility being taken care of by the organization in question. To further understand the workability and nature of corporate social responsibility, we shall now take a look at some Indian case studies. ITC Limited. ITC is an Indian public conglomerate company, India. Its diversified business includes 4 segments: fast-moving consumer goods, FMCG, hotels, paper boards, paper and packaging, agriculture business. ITC's annual turnover stood at $7 billion and market capitalization of over $33 billion. ITC is synonymous with corporate social responsibility in India. It is the only company to be water positive, carbon positive, and solid waste recycling positive for the past 4 years. ITC's internationally recognized e-Chaupal is the world's largest rural digital infrastructure benefiting 4 million farmers. ITC's social and farm forestry initiative has generated over 119,000 hectares, creating over 52 million persons day of employment among the disadvantaged. ITC's watershed development initiative brings precious water to 74,000 hectares of dry land and moisture stressed areas. ITC's sustainable community development includes supplementary education and integrated animal husbandry programs. ITC's Women's Economic Empowerment Program in rural areas include assisting women to form microcredit self-help groups that enable them to build small savings and finance self-employment and microfinance. ITC's Green Buildings in Gurgaon is one of the largest green buildings in the world and the first in India. It is certified by the US Green Building Council for leadership in energy and environmental design. They redefine luxury with responsibility, as each of their hotels have a 99% waste recycling procedure. ITC employs the differently abled in jobs best suited for them as data entry professionals, housekeeping, teleworking, bakeries, and even musicians. ITC also uses renewable energy for its functioning. 35% of the company's energy needs are met by its wind energy facility in Chennai. The Tata Group operates more than 80 companies ranging from software and automobiles to steel, consumer goods, and telecommunications. Tata Group developed and formed the whole city of Jamshedpur from scratch. Tata Sons give out 8 to 14% of their profits every year. Tata introduced the labor laws in 1917 in India. Tata runs an adult literacy program. Titan has employed 169 differently abled workers in blue-collar jobs. Telco is fighting against leprosy in Jamshedpur. Tata Tea has launched first of its kind consumer awareness campaign called Jagore, which is an anti-corruption campaign. Tata Chemicals runs a rural development program at Okla Mandal and Babrala, Tata Consultancy Services, and a range of local NGOs. Clean and safe drinking water is available for the first time for thousands of households in rural Maharashtra. Tata Group has established various schools and also Tata Institute of Social Sciences, which promotes sustainable development as a part of its education background. According to Ratan Tata, the sense of social obligation doesn't collide with shareholder value creation. These two objectives are not incompatible. What the company has done in their discharge of social responsibility should be of value to their shareholders. Their efforts result in a more prosperous country and lead to a greater quality of life that benefits all.
A lot of bigger corporates also which do a lot of corporate social responsibility programs. For example, you have Tata Group. In fact, as a matter of fact, Tata Group, approximately 66% of the stake in Tata Group belongs to a trust. So that, and this particular ratio has been made so that there are monies which go into corporate social responsibility. I mean, as everybody knows that, Tata has its huge setup in Rajasthan. So, especially in the area of Jamshedpur, they have adopted these villages wherein they have set up schools, they have set up these hospitals, wherein, they have put in some 800, 850 beds. They are providing sanitation over there. They are providing good education, empowerment to the people residing in that particular area. In fact, Tata Motors, not essentially only Tata Motors, but Tata Group as such as a whole, every year out of the total profits that they have, which is minus the tax, after the tax that they pay, the dividend that they pay, whatever the total profit is, out of that 2% of the money they put into the CSR activities. I think last year or maybe last year, they had invested up to some 50 crores only on CSR activities. So this is a kind of corporate social responsibility that a firm, most of the corporates usually have, or have started adopting. Tata Motors is an example in itself. When we talk about various aspects later, you'll know. But similarly, there are other agencies like GAIL and SAIL, which again have put in like some 1% of the total profit minus the taxes that they pay into community services. So these community services could be anything. It could be right from putting in beds in the hospitals, putting in monies in the NGOs. It could be setting up schools. It could be providing a better sanitation, better healthcare programs, or developing or adopting a village as such and developing it. When we talk about more, maybe something like GM Motors, maybe they do not, even if, I don't know if they do something really big as adopting a village or something like that, but as a matter of fact, what I know is that they have collaborated with certain NGOs in which, like I think last year, or maybe last year, they had this musical concert, which was a fundraiser in which the president of the GM Motor was there. And they were just raising the funds for the underprivileged children, for their studies, for their orphanages. So they have collaborated with certain NGOs as well. Similarly, there are other agencies and other corporates as well, like Monasteel Steel is Spartan Energy, which is essentially into steel and energy. Again, their main hub is Chhattisgarh. So even in Chhattisgarh, they have adopted certain areas where they have developed it. Whether they have their own Monat school, DAV school, wherein they have set up schools for children over there to study, where they have the children of the Monat employees or of the Chhattisgarh region as such to come and study there. So there are different corporate social responsibility areas in which corporate can put in their monies. As a matter of fact, now it has been made mandatory for the corporates to put in money, to share out the money out of their total profit into the corporate social responsibility arena.
And now it's time for a quick recap. Corporate social responsibility is the need of the hour. Almost every company, be it big conglomerate or a small new venture, are realizing the importance and need of embracing social responsibility. Not just profit making, but giving back to the society has also become one of the goals of various companies in recent years. The consumers are becoming aware and conscious of the effect processes and certain products have on the environment, and they are making decisions based on such factors. Studies show that consumers favor brands which they perceive to be more humane and sensitive to the needs of the society. Therefore, there is an obvious need to communicate the good deeds done by the corporate to their stakeholders. That is where the role of public relations comes in. Public relations are all about making sustainable relationships. By projecting the social activities undertaken by the companies, public relations enhance the image of the organization amongst its stakeholders. The stakeholders start seeing the company as one of them and as an entity who cares about their needs and takes steps to manage their business in a society in a friendly manner. This instills confidence in them and builds a lasting relationship between the society and the organization. That is all we have for today. I hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you and goodbye.